What's up, guys? Dom here with Restricted America. I'm bringing a special message today. I would say it's breaking news, but it did come out either yesterday or 2 days ago, so I'm a little bit late to it. So you may have heard or may not have heard, but basically Massachusetts legislature introduced a new budget bill, and they basically hid in Section 51 of their new bill, Chapter 206 of the Acts of 2024. It suspends the training requirements for those seeking a firearms license, as well as training for law enforcement and retailers. So it's basically amending part of Chapter 135, which is what H4885 is now known as. It's sneaky, but it's you could kind of see this coming from a mile away, because there was no funding for these new training requirements. It would have required money in the budget, and it seems that they themselves are admitting that through this bill, not vocally, of course, but they are admitting through this bill that they did not mean to actually put the deadline so early. You know, if they'd actually read their own bill, they could have seen that, or if they read it on the floor, which they voted not to. They also voted to suspend the rules, so of course this would pass through. But guys, let's read. This is actually directly from Gun Owners Action League, goal.org, and they put out an article which kind of explains most of it. I'm just going to read through it. Massachusetts legislature suspends new training requirements. In a likely response to Goal's federal lawsuit, the Massachusetts legislature has suspended the new training requirements in Chapter 135. In yet another secret maneuver, the legislature hid an amendment in a budget bill. The bill was signed into law on September 16th, 2024. So that was basically last week at this point. And I guess they had just one of Goal's attorneys basically found this and brought it to their attention, because if they didn't, we would have never even really have known about that. They didn't send out notices to anybody. Section 51 of the bill, Chapter 206 of the Acts of 2024, essentially suspends all new training requirements for those seeking a firearms license, as well as training for law enforcement and retailers. See below. This amendment to the new law is very telling of how Chapter 135 was never properly vetted by the public, the legislature, and the state agencies tasked with enforcing this new law, said Jim Wallace, executive director of Goal. Not too long ago, Chairman Day arrogantly stood in front of a press conference and bragged about how this law could meet any constitutional challenge. If that was true, then why the delays? While this can easily be considered a temporary victory for the 2A community, there are also some scary consequences involved. For instance, the training for retailers on how to comply is suspended, but the actual legal mandates are not. So that means new rosters and retailer inspections, inventory registration, etc. Just as concerning is the suspension of law enforcement training on the new laws. It is unconscionable that the state would suspend the training for retailers and law enforcement while still intending to enforce Chapter 135 in its entirety. So yeah, they're basically suspending the training requirements for now, which is technically good, but they're also suspending the training requirements for the police on how to enforce the other rules that they're still planning to enforce. So the police won't know what to enforce or what not to enforce. They're basically going to have to interpret it themselves, and I'm sure, AG Campbell will have a big hand in that, just like former AG Maura Healey did with the 2016 enforcement notice. Goal is already consulting with our legal team to determine how this will affect our federal court action. We will keep our members informed as more is learned. If you didn't already know, I announced this in a previous video, and Goal has announced it, and I think Toby has announced it, but Goal has already filed a lawsuit on the training requirements. So again, I don't know how that's going to affect that. They don't know how that's going to affect that yet. They're obviously, like I just said, they're consulting their legal team, so there's a lot up in the air right now. A lot to figure out about the enforcement of this. It seems like people are still going to be able to go get their licenses without this new training requirements. It seems like it's getting suspended for basically a year and a half, which, you know, if we get the petition, if we get enough signatures on the petition, it will be suspended until 2026 anyway. So guys, do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think it's sneaky of them to try to add this in and not let anybody know? Let me know in the comments as usual. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and especially if you're not subscribed, make sure to do that now. Other than that, guys, stay informed and stay unrestricted.